Who never liked to play war as a kid? To feel like a legendary hero for a moment? I remembered this feeling as I was preparing to go to Greece, very excited about finally exploring this country that fascinated me in my childhood. As I was about to leave France, I was expecting to have a very chill trip. But from the very first day abroad, this innocence slowly started to vanish.
Enjoy your freedom. Don't let anyone, and I mean really anyone, take it from you. And never listen to someone who will tell you it's impossible or hard to do, because no one knows what you are capable to do.
Hossam had to run away from Syria a few years ago, and I never had the occasion to hear a story like his before. I was impressed by his struggle and how he managed to build a new life in Germany. I didn't know it at this point, but the problematic of war refugees would keep on coming back on my trip. 2 days later, I ended up talking with a girl who was fleeing with her 2 cats from the recently started war in Ukraine. Her eyes were beautiful, but murdered with pain when she would share her story. And I wouldn't forget about her on my way to the starting line of the race in Krakow. The return of the king! I got to see other signs of misery during the competition. When it ended, I was alone in Thessaloniki with a decision to make. Those 2 last weeks have been quite exhausting, but I'm going back on track for the next part of my trip. I actually have unplanned plans now. As those last days I had a lot of occasions to meet people who are running away from the war. I decided that maybe it would be more interesting for my personal growth to go meet those people. So instead of staying in Greece as I planned, I think I will tomorrow go back to Sofia or direction of the north and travel in the countries around Ukraine, so I can maybe find some people to interview and I wouldn't need to wait for long, as my couchsurfing host in Thessaloniki had to cancel his plans to settle down in Ukraine.
I was supposed to stay there forever the second time I went. So I already had my lawyer, Ukrainian lawyer, my realtor. I had found a nice house. I could buy like a 1-bedroom house in Lviv. And then the war happened. Back then my father was in the hospital, so I already was planning to do a short trip back to check out things here.
Yeah.
And I called the embassy. And the embassy in Kiev, the Greek woman I talked to, she said, I said, is it safe to stay for a couple of more months? And she's like, are you crazy? Just leave now, leave yesterday if you can. I'm like, yeah, it's that bad? Just leave now.
Russia calls its invasion a special military operation designed to disarm its neighbor. Ukraine and its allies say Russia launched
This is my life.
I'm trying to leave Thessaloniki since at least 5 hours. I still didn't get a ride.
Underneath the moonlit sky, me, honey, and I come sit hand in hand.
I'm still in Thessaloniki. Yesterday was not a big success. Hopefully I had a friend in the city who could host me for the night. And today is round number 2. I'm going to try a new spot. Let's hope that this time I get out of the city. I'm not being very lucky, so now I try to create my own luck. Cars should stop in a minute. I'd eventually get lucky as I got to hitchhike a bus going to the Black Sea. I just arrived in Burgas. It is almost 4 AM and I still don't know where to sleep. Well, I found a little gas station where I could, when I would be able to maybe sit for 1 hour or two before the sun rises. Seems to be the safest option for now. Now I'm recording. So, we are now in Bulgaria, going to Varna, and you were teaching me a few words of Bulgarian.
Yes.
How do we say hello in Bulgarian?
Здравей.
Zdravey.
Здравей.
And thank you is
Благодаря. Благодаря.
Благодаря.
Точно така.
Okay. Благодаря.
Благодаря.
And let's go to Varna. How do you say?
Отиваме до Варна.
My feeling in Bulgaria was strange. As I walked between the Black Sea and the remains of the USSR, I had a hard time to feel at home here. My investigation was also a bit stuck, as the only refugees I got to meet were the wealthy ones, who didn't really experience the war. Being in a dead end, I decided to move forward. When I passed the border between Bulgaria and Romania, a dog kind of attacked me and he did bite my right leg. And if I'm outside that late, it's because I had to go to the emergencies. I was advised to go there and I had to, well, maybe a bit cure the injury. But this was just the beginning. When I took my first injection of anti-rabic vaccine the next day, I was told that I'd have to do 4 other ones in the coming month. If I didn't, and ended up with symptoms of rabies, I would die in a week, which would be quite annoying. Anyway, I decided to leave Constanza and hopefully I quickly got alright. Estamos con Alister, que es de Romania, pero podemos hablar español juntos.
Claro.
Y ahora vamos al lado del aeropuerto de Bucarest.
El aeropuerto de Eliquando.
Today has been very, very intense. I mean, it started very well when I left Bucharest. I mean, just one request, I met a guy who was going in the next city. But after that, I was in a bad situation. I met a truck driver who ran out of fuel and he had to leave me at some parking, some desert parking, where there was actually a few dogs. And now when I see a dog, I have my level of stress that really goes up and I need a lot of self-control to stay quiet in this situation. Hopefully after waiting a few minutes under a very, very hot sun, I got a ride to the next city and yeah, in the end I didn't go to Cluj where I wanted to go. I just did a third of what I wanted to do, but I got to see good landscapes and I got to meet very, very nice people. I mean, emotional exhaustion became too strong. I was driven by a need to settle down in a place with familiar faces. So I kept rushing to Cluj, where I met Emmanuel, a friend from middle school I hadn't seen for the last 10 years.
Alors ça, c'est une salata de vinete. Donc c'est fait avec des aubergines, c'est très roumain. Et ça c'est une chafa, c'est aussi très roumain. C'est du porc, c'est du cou.
Ok.
Beaucoup de porc.
Donc chafa et vinete. Eh, c'est joli, hein.
Ça a l'air trop bon avec le reste.
We are with Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, Alex,
Bună ziua.
bună ziua.
Yeah. So
Roxana,
Roxana, nice to meet you.
yes, and so we just randomly met while I was
taking some water.
taking some water. I wanted
From the
to
fountain?
to
Yeah.
know if it was possible to drink it, and then we started to talk a lot about traveling. And well, actually, Alex did offer to host me for 2 nights, so I guess
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun. And we are going to. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about hitchhiking because, well, this guy he wants to start to hitchhike, and now you have to hitchhike.
yeah, I have to
You must
hitchhike.
tell to the camera you engage
Yeah.
yourself.
I will hitchhike to Budapest.
Yes.
Yeah, I will do it this year.
Okay. Now you say that you have to do it.
Next month.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Next month.
no.
She puts some pressure to you.
No.
Sì, fericirea vine din interior. That means like happiness comes from inside.
Okay.
So it's like don't try. don't try to search for happiness. Happiness it's always here and it's inside us. So that's something deep that we should learn. And currently I'm learning to be alone. To be happy and alone. Yeah. To own my
your happiness.
my happiness. Yeah.
In Cluj, I finally got to rest, but also to deepen my movie project. Thanks to Couchsurfing, I met Gabriela, who hosted me a few nights, and as she told me about her childhood under communism, she convinced me to expand my field of research to the theme of finding inner strength in adversity. This way, I would be able to include more people I met on my way, and the problematic of the war in Ukraine would be more like a compass for my trip. After 1 week, I would go back to the road. So, Turkish coffee, right?
Yeah,
So,
traditional Turkish.
So how do you say hello and thank you in Macedonian?
Macedonia, hello is zdravo.
Zdravo,
Yes, and thank you is fala.
fala.
Yes. I'm doing this job for my family, for my daughter, for my wife, for my parents. You know, it's in our country. It's I don't know what to say, disaster. You know, you don't have enough money to live and to live good.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah, that's what
I'm
gives
driving.
you. Yeah, how
I'm
you
working like a truck driver.
Yeah. It's so that you told me, yeah, how many hours a day you do in this
Around 10.
around 10 hours driving. Yeah. And sometimes, so if you go to Belgium, 10 days away from
10 days, yeah.
from
my
your
home.
family. Wow. Das ist deine Tochter. Deine Tochter. Ah. Okay, I have to cross a fucking highway. Let's go. Okay, first step done. Okay, I do it once more and well, actually, this part seems easy. I'm back to Katowice and about to see my friends, the friends I met last time, so I'm kind of excited about it. Well, the only thing that they warned me that they have a dog at the place, and well, it will be a good test for me. We are trying to feed the dog. No, it doesn't feel like it.
You have to quiet.
Yeah. Oxy. Then starting my last ride to the east, in the direction of the Ukrainian border. I'm now in Rzeszów, the last big Polish city before the Ukrainian border, and I know the city was on the first line for hosting refugees, and I saw that at the station there is a place where they welcome the refugees, so I'm going there to try to find some people to interview. Dziękuję. Okay. Perfect. Dziękuję. I got lucky at the entrance of the refugee center as I met Laurent, a French living in Poland since 20 years, working as a translator. He made me visit the whole place and explain me how it worked. En ce moment, il y a combien de personnes ici?
Je dirais une centaine contre 500
au début,
et puis comme j'ai dit, les gens ne pouvaient pas rester longtemps puisque tout de suite il y avait d'autres gens qui arrivaient.
Okay. At this point, I thought I had seen enough, but I still wanted to have a look at the border itself and then leave. War had always been a distant concept to me, something I only read about in books or saw on TV. But I was not hiding behind a screen anymore. I was among the refugees. It was now part of my reality. And all of it would get more intense as I finally got to the border.
Okay. You know, because many of the people, they feel lost. They just we need to show them there's people they care. Not just give them, you know, food and then that's it.
So beyond giving the material help, you give them the like not psychological but the human help. Like you show that there are people who care. Okay.
We have some food and nappies and things like that in there. And
Does it work again?
yes,
There we go.
the people will be just coming over to see the bubbles.
That's the goal. We have tons of toys to give away, so I wanted to track them in, make them
And-
feel comfortable.
All the toys are from
The store.
gifts. Right?
These guys bought them
You
Yeah, here you
buy
go.
the gifts.
They buy them.
Okay,
Thank you for
nice.
your help. Thanks for the night.
Thank you.
very generously.
The volunteers were quite impressive. Many came from all parts of the world to give a hand. When the war started, some people simply quit their job, filled their cars with useful supplies, and crossed the continent just because they knew help was needed. Some of them even created associations, and from nothing, they collected food, clothes, medicine, and many other things to help the refugees. 100 days later, they were still here. Inspired by their action, I offered to stay a few days to help. Even if I arrived after the biggest waves of refugees, coffee was still needed. And this way, I had more occasions to exchange with people here. I met a lot of different profiles. Guys of my age going to engage in fights, a photo reporter who just came back from the war zone, a Ukrainian woman who regularly rescued cats from Kiev and drove them to her husband after the border so he could find them a new home in Germany. ¿Tienes muchos gatos?
Mira, ahí hay 2 o 3.
Entonces significa la voluntad.
Significa voluntad, correcto.
Fuera.
Con 4 bolas.
Primera letra es
No, todas otras.
tercera o segunda es O.
Y se escribe así. Bola.
Every day, I would see people leaving or going to Ukraine, even very late at night. And I was often shown images from the country.
Una familia de four generations, grandma, mother, daughter,
Non, clairement, je le fais
no,
parce qu'il
this
faut
is
le faire.
this is the baby.
Honnêtement,
here.
non, mais c'est pas un plaisir de faire des
No.
heures de route pour voir
Sisters,
même si c'est pas
mama,
un bon moment avec
and
les gamins,
grandmother.
pour voir des gamins
wow.
pour
Four
une heure
generations.
ou deux, parce que clairement...
If there was an amazing energy among the volunteers, we also felt deeply troubled. Before starting this trip, I hesitated to cancel the hitchhiking race because I was worried about getting too close to the war. It's funny to think that in the end, I got as close as I could. But without a passport, I couldn't go further. Therefore, it was time for me to go back to the West and try to get some perspective from this adventure. Among the many people I met, I noticed that the strongest ones were animated by a very deep love. A love for their God, their country, their cat, their family, or simply the humankind. When this love is stronger than fear, it often results in unwavering courage. And despite these rains of bombs, some people manage to find freedom.
Thank you.